The neon lights of Mickey's diner flickered against the rain-streaked windows, casting dancing shadows across the worn linoleum floor. Sarah Martinez wiped down the same table for the third time, her movements slow and deliberate. The diner was nearly empty at this late hour, with only the soft hum of the coffee machine and the occasional rumble of thunder breaking the silence. Sarah had been working double shifts for weeks now, trying to keep up with her mounting bills. The tips had been smaller than usual, and her last paycheck barely covered rent. Tonight she had exactly $12 in her apron pocket, not even enough for groceries for the rest of the week. The bell above the door chimed softly as a man walked in, his hair damp from the rain and his clothes simple but clean. He looked around uncertainly before sliding into a corner booth. Sarah noticed his hesitation, the way he studied the menu with careful attention, and how his fingers drummed nervously on the table. "Can I get you something to drink?" Sarah asked. Approaching with her notepad ready, the man looked up, revealing tired eyes and a face that spoke of recent hardships. "Just water, please," he said quietly. "I'm still looking at the menu," Sarah nodded and returned with a glass of ice water. As she set it down, she noticed him counting crumpled bills and loose change on the table. The sight was all too familiar. She had done the same thing countless times herself. Minutes passed. The man continued to stare at the menu, occasionally glancing at his small pile of money. Sarah refilled his water glass twice, each time noticing his growing discomfort. Finally, he closed the menu with a resigned sigh. "Actually," he said when Sarah approached again, "I think I'll just stick with the water." Sarah felt her heart sink. She recognized that look, that quiet defeat. It was the same expression she saw in her own reflection when she counted her tips at the end of particularly difficult shifts. Without thinking, she made a decision that would change everything. "You know what?" Sarah said, glancing around the empty diner. "We made too much food tonight. There's a burger and fries that's just going to go to waste. Would you mind helping us out by eating it?" The man's eyes widened. "Oh, I couldn't. I don't want charity." "It's not charity," Sarah insisted gently. "We really do hate throwing food away. You'd be doing us a favor." After a moment's hesitation, the man nodded gratefully. "Thank you, that's very kind." Sarah went to the kitchen and prepared a plate with the last burger and fries, her own meal that she had been saving for her break. She had planned to eat it before heading home, knowing it might be the only substantial meal she'd have for the next day or two. But looking at the stranger's grateful expression, she felt no regret. As the man ate, Sarah continued her closing duties. She watched him savor each bite, eating slowly as if he wanted to make it last. When he finished, he carefully counted out exact change for the water and left it on the table along with the few remaining bills as a tip, probably more than he could afford. "Thank you," he said as he prepared to leave. "I won't forget your kindness." Sarah smiled. "Take care of yourself out there." The man paused at the door. "I'm Marcus, by the way, Marcus Chung." "Sarah Martinez," she replied. "Stay dry, Marcus." After he left, Sarah finished closing the diner. Her stomach rumbled as she walked home through the drizzle, but she felt oddly satisfied. Sometimes, she thought, doing the right thing was its own reward even when you couldn't afford it. 3 weeks passed. Sarah's situation hadn't improved much. She was still working extra shifts and counting every dollar. The memory of the grateful stranger had faded into the background of her daily struggles. One particularly busy afternoon, Sarah was rushing between tables when she noticed a commotion near the entrance. A man in an expensive suit was speaking with her manager, Tom. They seemed to be having an intense conversation, with Tom gesturing excitedly and nodding repeatedly. Sarah didn't pay much attention until she heard her name being called. She turned to see Tom approaching with the well-dressed stranger walking beside him. "Sarah," Tom said, his voice filled with excitement, "this gentleman has been looking for you." The man stepped forward, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Despite the different clothes and styled hair, she recognized those kind eyes immediately. "Hello, Sarah," Marcus said with a warm smile. "I told you I wouldn't forget your kindness." Sarah stared in disbelief. "Marcus, you look different." He laughed softly. That night at the diner, I was going through the hardest time of my life. I had just lost everything in a business deal that went wrong. I was down to my last few dollars, sleeping in my car, and honestly, I wasn't sure how I was going to get back on my feet. Sarah listened in amazement as Marcus continued his story. Your kindness that night, giving me that meal when you clearly needed it yourself, it reminded me that there was still goodness in the world. It gave me the strength to keep trying. The next day, I made some phone calls, reached out to old contacts, and started rebuilding. It took time, but eventually, things turned around. Tom was practically vibrating with excitement beside them. Sarah, do you know who this is? Marcus Chen is the CEO of Chen Industries. He's been looking for you for weeks. Marcus pulled out a business card and handed it to Sarah. I've been working with a private investigator to track down the kind waitress. From Mickey's Diner, I wanted to thank you properly and offer you something. Sarah's hands trembled as she took the card. I don't understand. I'm opening a new community outreach center, Marcus explained. We'll be providing meals and job training for people who are struggling, just like I was that night. I want you to run it. Full salary, benefits, and the chance to help others the way you helped me. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. Marcus, I can't believe this. You saved my life that night, Sarah, not just with the food, but with your kindness when I needed it most. This is my way of paying it forward, and I can't think of anyone better to help me do it. Tom patted Sarah on the shoulder. Take the job, Sarah. This is your chance. Sarah looked around the familiar diner, then back at Marcus. The weight of struggle that she had carried for so long began to lift from her shoulders. Yes, she whispered. Then stronger, yes, I'll do it. Marcus smiled broadly. Welcome to the team, Sarah. Together, we're going to make sure no one goes hungry when we can help it. As they shook hands, Sarah realized that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the largest ripples. Her decision to share her last meal had not only fed a hungry stranger, it had planted a seed that would grow into something beautiful, something that would help countless others. The neon lights of Mickey's Diner still flickered in the window. But for Sarah Martinez, a new chapter was beginning. One where her natural compassion would have the resources to make a real difference in the world. 6 months later, the Sarah Martinez Community Center opened its doors. Every day, people who were struggling could find not just a warm meal, but hope, job training, and the kind of compassion that Sarah had shown on that rainy night. And every evening, as Sarah locked up the center, she remembered the simple truth that had started it all. Sometimes when we give what little we have, the universe finds a way to give back more than we ever imagined.